How's it going, trainers? Zatu here, and today we're revisiting the Kanto region, but with a twist. With some heavy inspiration from Paldea's open world mechanic, we're going to be looking at what each gym leader would look like if they could be challenged in any order. This means we'll be introducing level scaling unlike Generation 9, and I'll do my best to explain my picks for each gym leader and their teams. And at the end, I'll share my preferred order to make this challenge the most challenging. With that, let's jump right into the first gym leader, Brock. If Brock was your first gym leader, he'd have his signature Geodude in Onix. However, if you decided to challenge him after having a badge in your possession, his team would level up and he would add a Rhyhorn. I feel like this was the most appropriate addition considering it's a Pokemon made out of rocks. Having two badges would grant Brock another level up and additional Pokemon. This Pokemon would be dependent on a choice the player made, since they would most likely have cleared Mount Moon with two badges by now in order to get to Brock. So that means if the player chose the Helix fossil, Brock would have a Kabuto. However, if they chose the Dome fossil, then he would have an Ammonite, adding decent coverage to his team. With 3 and 4 badges, Brock's Geodude evolves into a Graveler. Things only truly start getting challenging once you challenge Brock with 5 to 6 badges. His Graveler is now a Golem, his Rhyhorn is now a Rhydon, and his fossil Pokemon have now evolved into an Amistar and Kabutops. And his next and final team would be if he was the last gym leader, and that would consist of a Golem, Rhydon, Kabutops or Amistar, a newly acquired Aerodactyl, and his trusty Onix. I could have evolved it into a Steelix, but I wanted to stay true to the Kanto region's natural inhabitants. But what do you think of our fry pan wielding gym leader? Moving on to Misty, with 0 badges, she would have a Poliwag and Staryu, making her a decent first gym challenge. However, with 1 badge, she would evolve her ace into a Starmie and add a Goldeen to her team. With 2 badges, she would also include a Psyduck, giving her a diverse pool of water types. Things get really challenging when the player has 3 to 5 badges in their possession. Her team is now evolved, giving her Poliwhirl, Seaking, Golduck, and Starmie, and stays consistently getting stronger the more badges you have. The next big change is at 6 badges, where her lead is now fully evolved and you would be facing off against a Poliwrath, quite a strong endgame gym leader. And if you challenged her last, then she would also have an additional Seadra on her team. You might think bringing a grass or electric type would be enough, but with her Starmie knowing Ice Beam and her Seaking having the Lightning Rod ability, you might be in for quite a challenge. Next up is Lieutenant Surge, who is hidden behind a cuttable tree. For this reason, let's address the elephant in the room, HMs and their use in this open world system. They don't exist, and instead there are NPCs that can help you obtain an item that performs these overworld abilities after completing a simple task. This would allow you to challenge Lieutenant Surge in any order, and let's look at his team if he was your first challenge. He would have a Voltorb and a Pikachu. Looks like he hasn't evolved his ace yet, but that quickly changes once the player has at least 1 badge. Now he's got a Magnemite and a Raichu. At 2 badges, he'll add another Voltorb since he loves blowing things up. And at 3 to 6 badges, his Pokemon evolve into Electrode and Magneton with appropriate move pools and level scaling, depending on the player. And his final gym leader team would add in Electabuzz, further bolstering his physical prowess. Now it's time for Celadon's maiden, Erica. As the first gym leader, she would have a Paris and her ace, Oddish. I added a Paris because of its grass typing, but also because it was the only other appropriate early game grass Pokemon. We could have gone for the Bellsprout, but I didn't want it to clash with the ace, especially with only 2 Pokemon on her team. Which brings us to her team when the player has at least 1 badge. Now she adds a Bellsprout, and it feels like it belongs and doesn't clash. At 2 badges, her Paris evolves into a Parasect, her Bellsprout into a Weepinbell, and her Oddish into a Gloom. She also adds a Tangela onto her team. At 3 to 6 badges, Erica's Weepinbell and Gloom evolve into Victreebel and Vileplume with appropriate move pools and level scaling depending on the player. And her final gym leader team would add an Executor, adding a counter to potential poison threats. Next up is Ninja Master Koga, and as the first gym leader, he would have a Grimer and his ace, Coughing. With 1 badge, he adds a Zubat to his team, a good choice for this stealthy gym leader. With 2 badges, his Zubat evolves into a Golbat and he adds a Venonat to the team. With 3 badges, his Venonat evolves into a Venomoth, and with 4 badges, his ace Coughing has finally evolved into a devastating Wheezing. With 5 and 6 badges, his lead finally evolves into a Muck. And as the final gym leader, Koga would add a Tentacruel since it's right by Fuchsia City and it could help counter against potential ground types. Now it's time for Saffron's psychic specialist, Sabrina, and as the first gym leader, she would have a Drowsy and an Abra. However, if you have a badge on you, then her ace evolves into a Kadabra and she adds a Slowpoke to her team. With 2 badges, she adds a Mr. Mime. Although not a strong early move pool, it does have great supportive capabilities. With 3 badges, her Drowsy and Kadabra evolve into a Hypno and Alakazam. With 4 to 6 badges, her Slowpoke evolves into a Slowbro, adding more devastating power. And as the final gym leader, Sabrina would add a Jinx to her team. I opted for this instead of the Venomoth since Koga already has it, but what do you think? 2 more to go, and next up is the Fiery Blaine. As the first gym leader, he would have a Vulpix and a Growlithe, but if the player challenges him with a badge on head, then he adds a Ponyta. With 2 badges, his Ace evolves into an Arcanine, and he adds another Growlithe to his team. What can I say? Blaine has a thing for puppy dogs. With 3 to 4 badges, his Vulpix evolves into a Ninetales with the ability Drought to further bolster his team. And with 5 to 6 badges, his Ponyta becomes a speedy Rapidash. But if you challenge Blaine as the final gym leader, he'll evolve his second Growlithe and add a ferocious Magmar to his arsenal. Now for the final gym leader. But what if he was actually the first? Well, he would have a Mewtwo. And if you have 1 badge, he would have a Mewtwo. And if you have 2 badges, he would have a... I'm just kidding. Or am I? I mean, it's kind of canon, really. But in all seriousness, if he was your first gym leader, he would have a Diglett and his ace Rhyhorn. I felt like these would fit him the best, and Diglett Cave is pretty nearby. With 1 badge, he adds a Nidorino to his team, and with 2 badges, he'll add an additional Nidorina. With 3 to 4 badges, his lead will evolve into a Dugtrio with Arena Trap. Good luck with that one. And with 5 badges, his other Pokemon will evolve into a Nidoking, Nidoqueen, and a Rhydon. And this stays consistent with 6 badges. However, if you challenge Giovanni as the final gym leader because you're just super vanilla like that, well then he would just add on a Sandslash to his team. But I would do no such thing. In fact, if I could challenge any of these gym leaders in any order, I would go for the path of most resistance. I'd challenge Giovanni first. I feel like going up against his Rhyhorn early on is pretty challenging, and not many people might be able to overcome that obstacle. But not your boy Xatu. I'm built different. Next, I think the most challenging second gym leader would have to be hands down Sabrina. With her Kadabra, special attack and speed alone could probably solo many trainers and their entire teams. For the third gym leader, I think Blaine would be pretty devastating with a fully evolved Arcanine on his team. The fourth gym leader was kind of tough, but I think Lieutenant Surge and his fully evolved team of explosive electric types would pose the most challenging. The fifth gym leader would be Brock and his fully evolved rock type Pokemon. The sixth gym leader would be Erica and her fully evolved grass types. And for the seventh gym leader, that would have to be Misty with her Poliwrath lead. Good luck with that one. And as the final gym leader, I think Koga would pose the most challenging. I mean, he is the only gym leader to in fact get promoted to Elite Four status, so there's something to be said there. But what do you guys think? Who would you take on first, and who would you leave last if you could challenge the Kanto gym leaders in any order? Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to like and subscribe for more creative Pokemon content. Bye!